Yeah.
Hello, hello everybody.
Easy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to some more Dungeons and Dragons Monday talks. And I'm here with Helping Hands.
Hello.
Right. And the topic for today is skills and what else?
Skills basically for like ability
Yeah,
scores, basically.
abilities and stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
what that corresponds to. Yeah,
Yep.
brilliant. All right. Well, welcome in. Welcome in. And yeah, Gabe. So you basically
Go
yeah,
over.
guide us through this one. Yeah, guide us through this one. So,
Okay.
what are we doing first? So, go to feats or what?
No, feats. They're called skills. Like athletics,
Skill.
acrobatics. It's in the player's handbook if you didn't know.
All right. Well, let's go to that then.
Yep. It's like ability checks. These are ability checks which you guys can gain from your scores, like your strength, your dexterity, your intelligence, your wisdom, and charisma. Constitution does not have any skills checks related to it, mainly because it
What
is
chapter is it? Do you know?
chapter 7,
Perfect.
using ability scores.
Yep. Perfect. Perfect. Brilliant.
Under
Yep.
ability checks. So there's strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Constitution determines your HP, so the higher your constitution, the more HP bonuses you get. So that's how that works. Strength is strength also determining some attacks from weapons and your bare fists if you want to do like attack with things that are not weapons or your fists. That's what strength determines. Plus, it has a skill. We'll start with strength because that's the smallest group. Athletics. They usually difficult situations you encounter while climbing, jumping, or swimming. Examples include the following activities: you attempt to climb a sheer cliff or slippery cliff, avoid hazards while scaling a wall, or cling to a surface while something is trying to knock you off. You try to jump unusually long distances or pull a stunt mid jump, or you struggle to swim or float. Storm tossed waves or thick seaweed or other creatures try to push and pull you underwater, otherwise interfere with your swimming. So athletics is like the only skill check with strength, but it has like the most common use, some of the most common uses,
Yeah.
along with dexterity, which is which replaces athletics in some areas. But athletics can like is like the push in your physical strength. I would use this like moving stuff, doing physical activities is basically what athletics you use for.
Yeah.
Next is dexterity skills, which is basically acrobatics. What is
Yeah.
like you attempt to stay on your feet through a tricky situation, such as when you're trying to run across a sheet of ice, balance on tightrope, or stay upright on rocking ship deck.
Yeah.
Or like acrobatic stunts, such as like including diving, rolls, somersaults, and flips.
Nice.
It also can break grapple, athletics or acrobatics. So those are the two things. These acrobatics and athletics sometimes overlap with each other, but it's not always. But not always. For certain things, you have to use athletics, and certain things you have to use acrobatics.
Yeah.
It depends on your DM, honestly, what they prefer.
Usually, the DM gives you give the player
Yep.
a choice of which one to do,
Yeah.
and then as the player, you can describe how you tackle the task. So, yeah.
My main problem is dexterity has more things you can use for, because it also determines your armor class, which is basically what you roll to have to get to actually hit your enemy, or them to hit you.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. True.
Next is sleight of hand, when you attempt to legitimately lead your man or manual tricks such as planting something or on someone else or concealing an object on your person. Make a dexterity sleight of hand check. You can also determine to like basically lift a coin purse off another person or slip something out of another person's pocket. So like stealing.
Yeah.
Which is this is basically the rogues class where people just try to steal stuff. So if you have high sleight of hand, you can do that.
Yeah. And it works with stealth as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stealth is like basically hiding yourself. Slink past guards,
Mhm.
slink past being noticed, or sneak up on someone without being seen or heard. You have to usually do this against a perception check, which we'll go into later. Intelligence has 5, which is tied with wisdom with the second highest skill checks in the game. It has Arcana, which is basically to understand magic items, the planes of existence, and those eldritch symbols, and other things that are magical in nature, or lore about spells. So anything magical you want Arcana with. History measures your ability to recall lore about historical events, legendary people, or ancient kingdoms, past disputes, recent wars, or lost civilizations. So anything that's not magical, like in nature, but is local history. That's what history checks are for. Investigation, you look around for clues, a hidden object, the certain appearance of a wound, what kind of weapon it dealt with. Basically, you're investigating the area and trying to figure out what it is. How well are you in investigating something in like a murder scene or a trap and such?
Yeah.
Or find out what happened somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is basically your measure to ability to recall lore about terrain, plants, animals, and weather, and nature's cycles. So nature is just what you know about nature.
Yeah.
Religion, about deities, rites and prayers, religious hierarchies, holy symbols, and practices of secret cults. So your religion just tells you. Well, religion is a little interesting because there's a lot of gods in D&D. It depends on what
Yeah.
your character what your role. It depends on how much your character knows about their religion.
Mm. Yeah.
So that makes sense. Tying that this is like one of the most has the most skill checks with it, intelligence, and it's tied with wisdom. One of the stats you most likely will dump sometimes, unless you are a cleric or something with or a druid, as they are the most common to use these. But I think they're underused, honestly. Animal handling. This is where you can help you domesticate animal, keep an animal from getting spooked, or intrude animal intentions.
Yeah.
Also, so basically, animal handling is basically how well you can handle either wild or tamed animals. So
Yeah.
that's why druids and clerics get it, because they're with either with gods or in tune with nature.
Yeah.
Insight, determine if someone's lying, basically. From their body language, speech habits, or change in mannerism, or predicting their next move. So basically, insight is just learning their next move.
Yeah.
And stuff, and just reading if they're lying or not. It's people. You will use this in case to try to constantly in some campaigns because like insight check to see if they're lying. Like if you're suspicious about anything, do an insight check. There's no harm.
Yeah.
Medicine. It lets you stabilize a dying companion or diagnose illness. There's also a medicine kit for this medicine check, what allows you to, well, heal your allies with medicine, of course.
Yeah.
But if you don't have like proficiency of like medical equipment, but to have okay medicine, you can do some basic healing so people won't die from their injuries when they get knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
Perception lets you spot, hear, or otherwise detect appearance of something. It's like general awareness, like how well you are at noticing things, which I, in real life, suck at because I will not notice things at all.
No worries.
Like, so basically, for example, if like an ambush is coming, you might notice some people. You might notice the people out of in the trees, while other people might not notice.
Yeah.
Survival. Follow tracks, wild game, or guide your group through frozen wastelands and decide, like, basically survive how you can survive in the wild.
Yeah.
And for the second to biggest one, besides wisdom and intelligence, because is charisma. How well you're at deceiving people, basically with deception checks. How well you're at intimidating people with intimidation checks. Besides your raw strength, you can be really intimidating with like your threats.
Yeah.
Performance. How well you can delight an audience with music, dance, or acting, storytelling, or other form of entertainment. Basically how well you can perform something to entertain people.
Yeah.
And persuasion is how well you can convince other people to do things. Good faith. Basically, persuasion doesn't exactly mean that you immediately convince someone to do something. Sometimes persuasions are useless because you can't convince like a rabid owlbear to suddenly stop fighting.
Yeah.
So it's usually in good faith, as this thing says.
Yeah.
There's also
And that's the skills. Yeah.
Yep. And then there's passive checks, which I should go over really quickly.
Yeah.
Passive checks are basically 10 plus your modifier. There's a passive wisdom for perception. There's a passive investigation, and there's a passive perception, investigation, and I can't remember the last one. Perception, passive wisdom, perception, and I'll pull up the last one real quick. Insight, passive wisdom, perception, investigation, and insight.
Yeah.
These are basically, if the DM uses them, they'll mainly use passive perception. But if you don't want to roll, you can do passive investigation or insight to basically determine how well you're at telling lies. I would use them basically as for insight. You have to roll basically the DM to tell how well your lie convinces them.
Yeah.
Or and beat their DC, basically. Or you can just ignore them entirely if you don't want that and want people to do insight.
Well, passive checks is another way for the DM as well to give the players a little bits of like clues about about stuff that's coming.
Yeah.
So if a DM like suddenly like you're going about your business, playing the game, and then the DM's like, what's your passive perception check? And then people, it's 10 plus your modifiers, and then the DM can say, okay, so everyone, but above 12, has noticed that the weather has changed.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. And it's
passive.
like, why has the weather changed? Oh, but it's because a storm giant's coming. That sort of thing. So,
well, passive perception is basically the most used one because of that. Like, it's easy to use that story. Passive investigation and insight are the harder ones. That's why usually passive perception is the only one people usually use.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just going to give an example of how to use passive checks as a whole. But yeah, it's got the 3 different categories. depending on like how the DM wants to use it as well.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, it's good.
How would I use passive investigation? Is basically you can either roll for your investigation or just investigate with your passive.
Yeah. Also, things like give us a passive insight check. You can tell the judge is a little bit off or something. You know.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And then the last one was what?
I already said passive investigation.
Investigation. Yeah. Insight. Yeah. There you go. So, there we go. Yeah. It gives both the DM. Well, mostly it gives the DM tools to help tell a story. You know. So that's good.
I basically wanted to go through these because people are confused as crap about these sometimes.
Yeah. So this is a good one to bookmark, actually.
Yeah.
You know, so skills on chapter 7 of the handbook.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Awesome.
I think that's it for today then.
Brilliant. I mean, it's a good short video, but you know, stream.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it's a bad one. It gives good content.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
I basically wanted to go over this because people have asked me and are confused about this, so I decided to go over this. So, thank you for everyone for watching this little short.
Thanks
G&D
everybody,
chat.
and we'll see you next time. Thank you everyone. We'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.